You're listening to the Armchair GM Sports Network.
Ted Liebman here, the voice of the OHL's Niagara IceDogs, and you're listening to OHL Overtime, an in-depth interview show highlighting the players, coaches, and broadcasters from around the Ontario Hockey League who make the league so great. Exclusively on the Armchair GM Sports Network. Now, here's your program host, Brandon Caputo.
Welcome into another episode of OHL Overtime right here on the Armchair GM Sports Network. Proudly brought to you by Wild Bill's Auto Repair, helping customers stay safe and confident on the road in Niagara since 2012. In honor of late William Robert Hunter. Thank you to those tuning in today on their favorite audio platform. Please give us a like and some love on whatever platform you're choosing to listen to us today. As well, give us a follow at Armchair GM Pod on Twitter and on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Threads. We're on there for you as well by searching the Armchair GM Sports Network, and as well on our YouTube channel if you're listening to it on YouTube podcasts. Today, we are going to have another Voices Around the Ontario Hockey League episode and our kind of post-trade deadline edition. We're going to speak to three voices from around the league. We're going to first speak to Reed Duthie from the Brantford Bulldogs about how the transition has been going to that new city there in Brantford in the Civic Center and all the exciting things that they're doing on and off the ice, as well currently sitting first place in the Eastern Conference. We're also going to speak with Ranjan Rupal, who is the TV play-by-play voice for the North Bay Battalion on YourTV. We're going to speak to Ranjan about this North Bay team that people didn't really know what to expect from them going into the year if they were going to sell or buy. They were buyers at the trade deadline and currently sit second place in the Central Division and third place overall in the Eastern Conference. They're really in a dogfight in that Central Division and the East for playoff seeding, currently only sitting 2 points behind the Brantford Bulldogs for top spots. So a very formidable team, and we'll talk to Ranjan about their season so far. And we'll finish off with the play-by-play voice of the Niagara IceDogs on YourTV Niagara, which would be Steve Clark. Get to talk with Steve on a regular basis there, as my home base for covering games is there in Niagara with the IceDogs. So have a good chat with Steve about what he thinks of the team going forward after the moves they made at the trade deadline and some of the younger players that he looks for here to take a big step to lead this team as they go into the future here and trying to sneak into the playoffs to finally get some playoff hockey here that the fans and the passionate people of Niagara have been wanting for the last 4 years. So we'll talk to Steve on today's show as well. So with that said, we're going to take you to our first interview today, and that'll be with the voice of the Brantford Bulldogs, Reed Duthie, on Rogers TV and as well on the Bulldogs Audio Network. Back on another edition of OHL Overtime with the play-by-play voice of the Brantford Bulldogs on Rogers TV and the Bulldogs Audio Network. That would be Reed Duthie. Reed, thanks so much for taking the time today. The Bulldogs, obviously, first year in Brantford. I want to kind of start off with that. Just general thoughts on the new setting there in Brantford, moving on from Hamilton, and how the Brantford community has really taken on and embraced this Bulldogs team. It helps when you're winning and sitting in first place in the Eastern Conference. But overall, what has been the general buzz and the vibe from the city of Brantford welcoming in the Bulldogs?
Well, first of all, Brandon, thanks for having me again. And it's always great to talk to you, but I always enjoy when the Bulldogs and IceDogs get together and I get to chat with you a bit. Two parts there. So I'll start with the move from Hamilton to Brantford because, as you know, I grew up in Hamilton and not that far of a walk from the rink. So it was really different to me when, you start to see the name change to Brantford Bulldogs and, you're not going to go down to First Ontario Center or Cops Coliseum, as I grew up with it, anymore to call the games and a day-to-day to work down there. So I wondered what it was going to feel like, personally, somebody that's been so attached to Hamilton my whole life. And I'll tell you, the people in Brantford have made it feel like home right from the very beginning. They've been excited. We've had people that want to come in and tour the building and see what's happened in this legendary arena. I mean, Hulk Hogan wrestled in the Brantford Civic Center when the WWF was doing tapings there in the 1980s. this is a legendary building, not just for hockey. So a ton of history there, and people were so excited about us coming back, and the history of the Alexanders and the Smoke and the Blast and all the things that they accomplished before us. And I think they really helped to make it feel like home. We're well over 2,000 season ticket holders in a 3,100 and change seat building, so that's been incredible to see. The community has been spectacular. We've done over a dozen school visits this year with the players. I get the wonderful task of leading those. Really enjoy getting out, getting to meet people, and just seeing the excitement on the kids' faces when they get to meet the Bulldogs that they come down and watch on the ice. It's just really been amazing to see the way that the community has immediately embraced us. They didn't have any trepidation about it. You can tell they wanted us there, and right away, it was fantastic, and it just keeps getting better and better. We have more ticket demand now than we even did at the very beginning. And you're right, it helps when you're winning. It helps when you've got Matt Turek and Jay McKee and Andrew Campbell and Andreas Carlson putting all the pieces in place. And, of course, Michael Andlauer and Steve Staios up at the top that have given us all the tools to be able to do this. But I think the winning was almost secondary. We were sold out long before the winning started. And I think it's now just grown into a situation where, because of the struggles off the beginning of the season, the fans in Brantford see this as their team and see it as them growing up right in front of them, which I also think has really lent into the reaction and the love from the city that we've received.
And talk about the players as well. Obviously, some of them have carried over from those days in Hamilton and those great runs that they went on over there. How have the players kind of adjusted to that and making Brantford their new home as well?
I think it was interesting. We ran a community practice when we first announced that we were moving over to Brantford, and when the players came in the first time, at that point the benches were on the other side of the ice, and the arena had some upgrades going back to the Allen Cup when the Brantford Blast hosted the Allen Cup, and some other things over time that had been done in the arena. But I think when the guys walked in, they kind of saw this old school junior hockey barn, and there was a bit of an excitement to it, like, wow, there's some history here, but how are we going to fit an OHL team and everything that goes along with that into this building now? And the work, and you got to give it to Vicano Construction. They're the guys that did the work on the building, and they did an amazing job. They put on an addition at the back, new locker room, new lounge, shower facilities, training room, equipment room, anything that you needed to operate a junior hockey team was added to the back of the building. And the guys were so excited when they saw it, all set up for them. The new change room, the new lounge and everything, the coach's office, the general manager's office, everything in the back is just, it's beautiful, the work that was done. So the guys were super excited to see that. And then when they saw everything that had been done in the bowl, the addition of the gondola up the top, and the four corners with all the raised merchandise platforms and food and beverage platforms, the switched benches that have all been redone, and the feel of skating on that ice, it's that Coliseum feel. And you've been in it, Brandon, where the stands are up above the ice, and right from the first row, you're not on the glass, you're over top of it. And I think that's really lended to that feel of it being this old school meets new school, and the players have hopped right into it. From the veterans like Lawson Shirk and Mateo Drobak that were in Hamilton for so long, to the new guys like Dylan Tisherna and Jake O'Brien as 07. They have taken it and really made it their own, and that's been exciting to see.
And speaking about exciting and kind of post-trade deadline talk here, Reed, the Bulldogs obviously made a couple of significant moves and have obviously reloaded on the fly here in the last year or so under new GM Matt Turek, and who obviously learned under Steve Staios through those championship years. And these moves from the Bulldogs have really been strategic, and they've really been working out for them. They obviously moved out Jory and Donovan for a boatload of draft picks, but also brought in some players that can help them now, like Daniil Sobolev and Zach Lavoie, just to name a few. Just talk quickly about the trade deadline impact that Matt Turek was able to make this season.
Always tough to see good guys like Jory Donovan and Noah Van Vliet go out the door, guys that won championships and I got to know over time. But it was that sense of retooling on the fly a little bit. The deal that Saginaw offered, it's impossible to turn that down. And they wanted Jory Donovan for the Memorial Cup run, and the Bulldogs felt like if Jory Donovan had an opportunity to run for another Memorial Cup on the automatic bid, they were going to give him the opportunity to go do that. He's been such a great player for us. He's earned that right to be able to go and take another crack at it. Noah Van Vliet to Sudbury. The Wolves wanted a veteran defenseman with some championship experience. The Bulldogs saw an opportunity to get Owen Protz, a young 06, a big physical presence on the blue line that's going to grow with this team, ranked on NHL Central Scouting. He's only going to move up the list. And then the two that you mentioned, Brandon, Daniel Sobolev came right in from night one, physical on the back end, a leader, playing alongside Tomas Hammer. I mean, that's peanut butter and jelly right there. Those two have meshed so well. They have been a dominant pair since getting together. And Zachary Lavoie up front. Last season, as you'll probably remember, the Bulldogs had 12 left-handed forwards. It was my kingdom for a righty. The Bulldogs needed a sniper that could fire from the right side. They go out and get Zach Lavoie to add to Jake O'Brien, who came in as a righty, and Calvin Crombie as a righty. There's a lot more balance in the forward lines now for the Bulldogs, and Lavoie has fit right in. That line with Van Acker, O'Brien, and Lavoie has been incredible. They're closing in on 40 points as a line in 8 games together. It's just silly what they've been able to accomplish already, and that's without the services of Patrick Thomas and Nick Lardis in the lineup. They'll get them back over the next few weeks, Thomas first and then Lardis. So the Bulldogs are going to be really deep with those new additions, helping to make a run into the Eastern Conference playoffs, and it sets the Bulldogs up well for this year and well for the future. And Daniel Sobolev and Zachary Lavoie, two veterans, are going to have a big part in helping those young guys grow into what the Bulldogs hope will be the next championship group.
And you talked about Nick Lardis and Patrick Thomas being out of the lineup right now, but a player that I want to touch on because I hear about him all the time through shout out to the Dogcast guys, the Bulldogs, Colin Ward and Reese Dumaney. They talk about Merrick Van Acker from the Delhi, Ontario, obviously ranked 25th on the Central Scouting list. You know, he's a special player, just came back from the CHL Top Prospects game, 52 points in 45 games, leading the Bulldogs in that sense with Nick Lardis being out of the lineup. Just talk about what his impact's been as a second-year player and just how special it's been to see his growth over the last year.
You nailed it, Brandon. Growth. That's exactly what I was going to go with. Great call. And yeah, the Delhi. It's like the Ohio State. Colin Ward loves that one. When we saw Merrick Van Acker come in as a rookie, you knew right away there was something special there. The blend of size and speed and skill, it's rare. You don't see guys that are that big and can play a physical style that can move like he does and can shoot the puck like he does. Coming into this season, Merrick had a real good start to last season, had a couple injuries that derailed him towards the finish, and I know he came back with a vengeance, and boy, is he ever. Right from the beginning of the season, you saw him come out explosive offensively. And that's continued all the way along. But I think the biggest thing for Merrick is he's really added to his 200-foot game. He's become a penalty killer. And he and Zachary Lavoie are starting to torture opposing power plays as a penalty kill duo. Reminds me of the days when the Bulldogs would roll Arthur Kaliev and Jan Yannick over the boards as penalty killers. He's added that to his game. He's using his speed and his size on the back check, which has really helped out. And in the absence of Nick Lardis, when the Bulldogs needed somebody to step up, yeah, Zachary Lavoie arrived and scored a whole bunch of goals in a hurry. But Merrick Van Acker's done the same thing. He's on a 10-game scoring streak as we sit here. And what we've seen out of him is that ability to be dangerous everywhere around the ice. It's not just, get the puck in the slot and firing. He's working through the circle. He's surveying options. He's figuring out how to be both a dangerous goal scorer and a dangerous playmaker. 26 goals, 26 assists at this point on the season. So he's added so many elements to his game in just 1 year. It's really amazing to think of where he's going to be a year from now, 2 years from now, and on down the road. The sky is the limit for Merrick Van Acker because of all the tools he has and how hard he works. He has really been a treat to see, again, grow up right in front of us.
And the Bulldogs obviously are excited right now. They're sitting first place in the East Division and the Eastern Conference, and look to, try to remain on the top 4 playoff seeding. From those last couple of championship teams that you've seen, Reed, as far as with the Bulldogs, this team, I think, one thing that you could look at and say it's got to stay healthy and it's got to stay, afloat is the goaltending with Mateo Drobek and David Igorov. Is that something that you think is a real X factor for this team if they're going to go deep and have a shot at the championship like those past 2 championship winning teams, that the goaltending is going to have to, really step up and be an X factor for them, because we know how talented they are up front with the forwards and the defensemen?
Oh, 100%. David Igorov is an 06, a young guy that has all kinds of talent, and he's really just learning his way into the OHL. And over the last few weeks, we've seen a real uptick in his game. Played last year in Junior B, was dominant. Came in this season, looked like he had a bit of an adjustment period to OHL speed, OHL shooters. Now he's starting to find it. What that's going to do is push Mateo Drobak, who over the last couple of months, his save percentage is over 900. He has been spectacular for the Bulldogs and really driven along the run the team has been on. There's going to be bumps in the road as it goes, and that's the situation with any goaltender. But when Mateo Drobak is on top of his game, he's a big goaltender. He's got the athleticism, and he plays his angles really, really well. He's not a goaltender that's going to get caught out of position a whole lot, and he knows how to use that linebacker-like size to knock pucks down, get on top of them. And with his physicality, you're not going to out-muscle him. You're not going to muscle him in the crease. When players are in front of the net, it's not going to bother him all that much. Mateo Drobak is a special kind of player that when he's on top of his game, he's the kind of goaltender that can steal you a playoff series. And with the team around him, when it's all healthy and all the pieces are there, he may not have to steal it. He may just have to give you, that upper echelon kind of goaltending that he's able to do for the team to have success, especially through the Eastern Conference, which remains to this point wide open.
Well said, Reed, and thank you so much for the very passionate, in-depth analysis there of the Bulldogs. And we look forward to kind of where they're going to go here the rest of the season and into the future. Obviously, with them playing the IceDogs so much, get to see this team up close and personal many times, and hopefully that 22 straight will come to an end at some point. But Reed Duthie, the play-by-play voice of the Brantford Bulldogs on Rogers TV and the Bulldogs Audio Network. Thanks a lot, Reed, and looking forward to talk to you again soon, my friend.
Always a pleasure, Brandon. Thanks so much. Don't wish away my 22 so fast, though. It will, just by the law of averages, for your sake. It does have to come to an end eventually. We just don't know when yet.
Yeah, hopefully soon. Thanks.
Wild Bill's Auto Repair is your local center for auto maintenance and repair in the Niagara region. Since 2012, Wild Bill's Auto Repair and Body Shop has been helping customers stay safe and confident on the road, knowing their vehicles in top running condition through their services. Located at 7868 Oakwood Drive in Niagara Falls, the garage started as a tribute to the owner's father, William Robert Hunter, who passed away, continuing the same community spirit and high level of service which customers came to expect from him back at Hunter's Auto Repair. Their multi-award-winning auto shop has earned the trust of the Niagara community with its fair treatment of all customers, who can feel confident they'll get the trustworthy advice and repairs during their visits. Their experienced crew loves meeting new people and looks forward to forming a lasting partnership for the care of your cars. To find out more or to book service, contact them today. 905-358-7868 or wildbillsauto.ca. Wild Bill's Auto Repair, helping customers stay safe and confident on the road since 2012.
J&L Flooring is Niagara's specialty flooring and design company. They take great pride and provide elite customer service and support. With a beautiful showroom, great pricing, and a wide variety of truly unique products, J&L Flooring is your specialty flooring and decor boutique shop. All of their products are environmentally friendly and responsibly produced so you can feel good about your flooring choices. Their goal is to build authentic relationships based on honesty and integrity that they foster with respect and authenticity. Offering a unique and wide range of quality products presented by a knowledgeable and patient team, they simplify the process to make your life easier and to make your home more beautiful. Visit them at 4424 Montrose Road in Niagara Falls or find out more at jnlflooring.com. If you think you can get a better deal anywhere else, you don't know Jack at J&L Flooring.
Niagara Golf Lounge features 2 state-of-the-art indoor golf simulators, allowing you to play some of the world's best courses all year round. The perfect place to indulge all season long. Don't worry about getting thirsty while you play around with your friends. Their fully stocked bar offers a wide selection of drinks, appetizers, and a variety of meals are also available to enjoy before, during, or after you play. Grab a seat next to the fire in their comfortable sports lounge. Didn't bring your clubs? No problem. They have partnered with TaylorMade to offer you the best rental clubs. You won't want to miss their exclusive NFL and NHL giveaways for the Buffalo Sabres and Buffalo Bills. Located in the Best Western Plus Karen Croft Hotel, 6400 Lundy's Lane in Niagara Falls. Visit NiagaraGolfVacations.com to learn more and to reserve your golf bay today. The Niagara Golf Lounge, Niagara's home for golf and sport all year round.
You're listening to the Armchair GM Sports Network, the Niagara region's best local source for North American sports podcasting coverage. By sports fans, for sports fans.
Welcome back to part 2 of today's OHL Overtime episode, right here on the Armchair GM Sports Network, proudly brought to you by Wild Bill's Auto Repair, helping customers stay safe and confident on the road in Niagara since 2012, in honor of late William Robert Hunter. Thank you very much to Reed Duthie for that chat in the first segment about this formidable Brantford Bulldogs team under head coach Jay McKee, and the way that they play are going to be a very tough out in the playoffs, a very structured and solid all-around team that will look to get Nick Lardis and Patrick Thomas back in the lineup and have their goaltending situation kind of get back into form as they've been all season long, along with the acquisitions that they made at the trade deadline, which has really helped put that team over the top. So thank you to Reed for that. And with that, we'll go to our second interview today with Ranjan Rupal from the North Bay Battalion broadcast team, does play-by-play on YourTV North Bay, and looks to be a team that is a force to be reckoned with the moves that Adam Dennis has made for that roster, and with head coach Ryan Houlihan taking that team to the Eastern Conference Final last year and looking to take that next step this year with the moves that they've made. So here is Ranjan Rupal from the North Bay Battalion. Pleased to be back on another episode of OHL Overtime, this time with our voices around the Ontario Hockey League post-trade deadline. I'm pleased to be joined by the North Bay Battalion's play-by-play voice on YourTV North Bay. That would be Ranjan Rupal. Ranjan, thanks so much for taking the time. I know it's an exciting time for North Bay. We were wondering coming into the season, where this North Bay team would be if they were going to sell. It's having such a great year last year, and some of those pieces might be coveted at the trade deadline. But Adam Dennis really believed in this group and decided to buy at the trade deadline. From the first half or 3/4 of the season here, what have you thought of the team's play? And they're sitting really good right now.
Well, I think, first of all, glad to join you. It's always nice to see you up here in North Bay. Frigid temperatures out today, but it's perfect conditions here in the arena. You talked about Adam Dennis's belief. The GM believed in this team from day one. Even though the team seemed to be plodding along at .500 hockey, I don't think his belief in this group ever wavered. Even though there was some hand-wringing in the fan base about winning one, losing one, defensive play at times was suspect, but he believed and he bought at the deadline, and it was the big question in North Bay whether he was going to pull the plug on DiVincentis and Nelson and load up for future years. But like I said, his belief unwavering from day one, and we saw that at the deadline.
And what have you thought so far? I know it's only been a couple of games and you haven't really got to see a whole lot of the new acquisitions yet, but brought in some guys like Bronson Ride from the Niagara IceDogs, Jacob and Andrew LeBlanc from the Sarnia Sting, formerly the Niagara IceDogs, and a couple other acquisitions as well. So he's just kind of filling out the rest of this roster here, and what do you think that those moves will help as they move forward here into the playoffs?
Well, it's a bulking up, and you have a guy like Bronson Ride. He plays with a bit of a nasty edge, and that's important in the playoffs because, to be honest, in the Eastern Conference Finals, the Peterborough Petes pushed us around a bit. And we're hoping to dish out some punishment rather than be on the receiving end and allow our skilled players a little bit more room out there. Now, the LeBlanc twins coming in, great on the back end, offensive flair with Jacob. Andrew up front working hard, picked up a big goal in the other game. Assisted on an overtime winner in Mississauga, so dividends right away. It may not be a coincidence that we are 4 straight wins after the trade deadline.
And you moved on from Charlie Robertson as the backup goaltender. Dom DiVincentis is the guy. He's been the guy for so long here with North Bay. They kept him around because they believe in this group and they believe that he can take them to where they want to be. So he's continued to be a workhorse in the net, and now they've got Mike McIver as the backup goaltender now, for when Dom needs a rest. So what have you thought of the goaltending situation, how it's kind of worked out?
Well, first of all, Charlie Robertson, a great young man, and Niagara is going to be very happy with him. At times, he has shown the bits and pieces to be an elite goaltender in this league. For example, when Dom was injured briefly last season, Charlie Robertson stepped in as a young man and picked up some really important wins for this club. Looked athletic in goal. He's big. He covers a lot of net, and with a bit of confidence. And in fact, in the loss to Barrie last night in the third period, you saw what Charlie Robertson can do. And with some more ice time, certainly next year, I think you're going to see big things from Charlie. Here in North Bay, my preference is that Dom DiVincentis play 95% of the remaining games because he is an elite goaltender. who is finding his game after an injury, an ankle sprain sustained against Sudbury in October, the disappointment of not making Team Canada. I think he's a young man with an infinite gas tank, and we should play him as much as possible down the stretch.
And some of the guys that maybe last year were depth pieces on the Eastern Conference championship run team that ended up losing to Peterborough, a lot of those guys are now the top go-to guys. You talk about, the Justin Ertles, the Owen Van Steensels, the Dallin Wakeleys, and the Anthony Romanis. Those guys were all bottom six roles last year. Now they are the catalysts up front for this North Bay Battalion team. How have you seen the growth in kind of that group there that was, learning from those great North Bay Battalion top six forwards last year, and now have taken the role and really elevated their game to another level?
Anthony Romani is the top scorer in the league this year, and he has been a top scorer on all of his teams coming up from being a young boy in hockey. Always has been a scorer. We expected him to progress, as often you see players progress from one year to the next, but to double point production, which he's on projected to do, I don't think we expected that, and that is a nice find. And honestly, Romani, Wakely, Van Steensel, that has changed Adam Dennis's calculations about what this team is capable of. And I don't think that we expected that line to be as productive as they are, and that has filtered down throughout the top nine forwards for sure. That their role now is not to lead by scoring, but to provide secondary scoring, and I think that's a good fit.
And lastly, about the defense, everybody knows about Ty Nelson and how an important of a piece he is. He went away to Team Canada at the World Juniors, comes back with a little chip on his shoulder, being a replacement player. Who are some of those other players around Ty on the defensive core that have really taken a step forward and helped this team, sit in first place right now at the time of recording this, and just continuing to be, one of the top teams in the Eastern Conference when a lot of people coming in this year didn't think that they would be?
I think Ty Nelson has had a journey this year. An elite player last year, got a good deep playoff run, his second deep playoff run. The pressure was on to make Team Canada. There were so many good defensemen across the country that being one of the 7 or 8 chosen to go to Sweden was always going to be a numbers game, but he did go. I think this year you see Ty Nelson not feeling like he has to lead this team offensively every night. And for the first half of the season, when this team was plodding along at 500, I think he was feeling the need to impress both Team Canada scouts who were sitting right here in front of us at the time, and also lead this team offensively to try to get some numbers in the win column. But now with some support, with some of the moves that Adam Dennis has made, he can step back a little bit and take some of that pressure off. He doesn't have to carry the piano every night for this team. And I think you're going to see a really good playoff run from Nelson, where he doesn't feel like he has to take unnecessary risks to generate offense.
And lastly, as we go on here for the last 20 or so games of the season, what are you looking to see from this North Bay team as they try to get that playoff seeding, where they want to be, and obviously get back to the Eastern Conference Final and win it this year? What would you like to see the team continue to progress with as they make that playoff running and get ready for the dog days of April and May?
Well, it's a good question. Last season, North Bay went on an incredible run in the second half and turned into a contender. The players started believing in themselves, led by Jackson, Petrov, and McDonald, of course. This year, the team is not there yet at that sort of high-functioning, firing on all cylinders level, but that is what we want to do between now and the beginning of the playoffs, is get back into structure, playing as a 5-man unit, really not letting the other team have any opportunities, and also develop the killer instinct, which is hard for teenage players in junior hockey to develop a killer instinct. It's something I've been thinking a lot about lately, is how really good teams are able to put other teams away and not sit on a 4-1 lead, because it's not a safe lead in junior hockey, as you know. But to be able to have that killer instinct and go for, I'm not going to say run up the score, but it's a good habit you have to have, especially in the playoffs, when you don't want teams hanging around in a 2-goal game, to kick into that killer instinct gear.
Makes a lot of sense. So Ranjan Rupal, the play-by-play voice of the North Bay Battalion on YourTV thanks so much for taking the time for the great in-depth analysis, and look forward to seeing what this North Bay team is going to do down the stretch, and maybe we will cover them again if they make the Eastern Conference Final.
Yeah, you bet. Thanks for having me.
Pets bring immense joy to our homes, becoming an integral part of our families. But this living, loving experience often requires a little extra care and attention. That's where Global Pet Foods comes in, with owners and staff ready to support you every step of the way. Check out one of their locations today: 3643 Portage Road in Niagara Falls, 160 Highway 20 in Font Hill, or 400 Scott Street and 344 Glendale Avenue in St. Catharines. Global Pet Foods, where pets are undeniably part of the family. Proud to sponsor the Dog Pound Podcast, the official podcast of the Niagara IceDogs. Are you looking to hire? Let the Niagara Employment Help Center save you valuable time and money by making your hiring process easier. Their services include free job postings in-house and on their website, fill job vacancies quickly and efficiently, access to a bank of potential employees, reduce employment costs, and financial incentives may be available to offset the cost of new hire training. Check out the website at ehc.on.ca or call 905-358-0021 for more information. The Niagara Employment Help Center, helping people find work since 1983. Since 1999, Niagara Denture Clinic has been helping thousands of patients achieve natural-looking smiles with the confidence to show them off. Sean Patel and his wife Ann, both licensed denturists, bring a wealth of skill and experience to the warm and friendly atmosphere to their Niagara Falls location at 5501 Drummond Road. And their on-site Niagara Hearing Clinic offers free hearing tests and a variety of services to fit your needs. This family-run practice takes pride in providing superior care and service to their patients, along with the best premium products available on the market. Get the best work done at a more reasonable price. Niagara Denture Clinic is here to help. Protect your teeth with a mouth guard, replace missing teeth, and get better hold with your dental implants. Call them today for a free consultation at 905-353-1552 or check them out online at niagaradentureclinic.com. Niagara Denture Clinic, creating natural smiles in the Niagara region for 25 years.
You're listening to the Armchair GM Sports Network, the Niagara region's best local source for North American sports podcasting coverage. By sports fans, for sports fans.
Welcome back to the final segment of today's OHL Overtime episode and our voices around the OHL post-trade deadline edition right here on the Armchair GM Sports Network, proudly brought to you by Wild Bill's Auto Repair. Thank you to Ranjan Rupal for that great discussion there when the Ice Dogs recently played in North Bay. Was able to catch up with Ranjan pregame and provide that interview for you guys and a little bit of insight there from what the North Bay Battalion perspective is going forward here into the playoffs. So with that said, our last segment today is going to be with Steve Clark from the Niagara IceDogs broadcast on YourTV Niagara. Steve, Ed Burkholder, and Al Galloway have been doing the broadcast since its inception when the team did move from Mississauga. So they've been here through all of it, and Steve obviously has called a lot of playoff games here, just not recently. And speaking to him about this team hopefully being able to sneak in the playoffs and getting that playoff experience that they would need, even if it were to be a short series, just giving the fans in Niagara some playoff hockey to come to once again would be vital in that sense. So we're going to take you to that interview with Steve Clark, and we'll discuss kind of the Niagara IceDogs outlook after their moves at the trade deadline and the long-term plan with head coach Ben Boudreau. Please be back on another edition of OHL Overtime with the play-by-play voice of the Niagara IceDogs and YourTV Niagara. That would be Steve Clark. Steve, thanks a lot for doing this. I know we talk on a pretty regular basis since the IceDogs are my home base as far as the team that I cover on a daily basis. For the fans out there, how long have you been calling games for the IceDogs on YourTV along with Ed Burkholder and Al Galloway? I know it's been quite the crew that's been together for a long time.
Yeah, we've been together, Brandon, since the beginning, 2007 and 2008 season. So what is that? So this is season number 16 for us, and we've all been together that whole time. I believe it's the longest, if not definitely one of the longest, 10 years for one broadcast crew. So keeps getting better every year. We age like fine wine. How's that?
That's great. That's a great analogy there, and I won't ask you about your age. So Anyway, Steve, so we're talking about a little post-trade deadline episode here with the voices around the league here, and I wanted to get your thoughts on what the IceDogs were able to do at the deadline. They've only won 2 games since the deadline, and it's been kind of peaks and valleys since then, but the moves that they did make, did you feel like they were as necessary as the coaching staff and the management were saying, moving out some older players, bringing in some younger players, and bringing in some draft capital, but also keeping a little bit of the leadership group together, with such a young roster that they have right now?
Yeah, the IceDogs were in a crunch for next year when it comes to overagers. So you knew that a couple of those players would have to be, shipped off or else shipped off in the off season, like a Zachary Lavoie, who was the captain. I was a little bit surprised that he got traded because I thought that they'd made him captain and that he would be back for an overage year. Bronson Ride was a trade, in which he wasn't an overager next year, I don't believe. But, the package of draft picks plus goalie Charlie Robertson was too enticing for Niagara to turn down. And then Daniil Sobolev as an overager, of course, who doesn't want a big physical, rugged defenseman down the stretch and heading into the playoffs? And with the IceDogs playoff situation precarious and it might not happen at all, you got a couple of young prospects back, and Calvin Chanowski and Mason Ray, and the IceDogs get younger so they can have those guys for a couple of years.
And you talk about Charlie Robertson, and he's been playing the last little bit since Owen Flores got a little dinged up there. I know you were very high on Charlie Robertson from the snapshot you got of him with the North Bay Battalion, obviously buried there behind their star goalie and Dom DiVincentis. So what do you like about bringing Charlie Robertson in? He obviously has some local ties in the area as well, and looks the part, and he's only 18 years old, so the IceDogs have a couple more years of control with him, along with Owen Flores to be an overager next year.
Well, you hit on a couple of the points already. There's 2 years of control with Charlie Robertson. There are those local ties with Charlie Robertson, in the St. Catharines area. And I do think those are an intangible and potentially important. And you take a look at the type of goalie he is. He's 6'4". He's pretty mobile. He is obviously very poised, and you can see that with the 3 games that he started in a row this weekend, one at home against Brantford, then on the road against Kingston, and then Ottawa. And he's facing in excess of 50 shots. And I thought, I'm taking out that game against Kingston because I've got some strong opinions about whether or not they should have kept Charlie Robertson in for that whole game. So I'm just going to leave that aside. But I think this young man has been outstanding, and he's kept the IceDogs in games, and really that's all you can ask from your goaltenders.
And they've obviously hit a wall again that they did early in the year with a lot of guys being on the shelf. They had upwards of 9 players on the injured reserve for, I think that was in a stretch between November and December, and they've kind of hit that again. They've got 5 scratches out. Mike Levin's away at Team Israel, just won gold there, really dominated the tournament with 17 points in 4 games, so obviously the IceDogs look to have him back, but they've got some other key players out of the lineup, and then the Alex Asadorian suspension, so it's been a really undermanned lineup that Ben Boudreau has had to kind of juggle with the lines and such a young roster and these call-ups. What have you liked from what Ben Boudreau has been able to do despite some tough circumstances with his lineup card?
Well, for the most part, and again, taking that Kingston game out of the equation, the IceDogs have been able to compete with teams. But when you're undermanned, it's the chicken and the egg. When you're undermanned, there's better chance of getting injured. And that's happened to Niagara. And their margin of error for defense is pretty slim. They've only got 6 defensemen to begin with. So with Andrew Wysick out, you're down to 5. That's a lot of hockey, even for young guys, to be asked to play in the Ontario Hockey League. But generally speaking, you take a look at the Ottawa game. They had a 3-2 lead and battled Ottawa until Ottawa kind of fended them off at the end. Against Brantford, they had a 2-1 lead late in the second period before things kind of fell apart for them. In the third, latter part of the second and into the third period. So they're competitive and they're a lot more structured, but you can really tell that they are lagging a little bit, especially in the latter stages of the game. And that's because of the shortened roster. But Ben Boudreau, I think, is maximizing his roster.
And speaking of maximizing his talent, obviously those 4 16-year-olds have been a bright spot for the team this year. And second-year player Kevin He, who obviously is in his draft year right now, tied Akil Thomas for goals as a 16-year-old for the franchise. He's at 21 and 36 points in 45 games right now. I know he was, pretty upset he wasn't invited to the top prospects game out east as well. So do you look for a motivated group here the last 25 or so games as they sit 7 points out and play Barrie and Peterborough twice in the two teams that they're trying to chase right now?
Yeah, and people will sit and people have scoffed at the IceDogs and any playoff aspirations that they may harbor. But I think it's very important for this team to compete for the playoffs and make the playoffs. With no playoff games at the Meridian Center since 2019, and here we are in 2024, to give these young 16-year-olds that you made mention of a little bit of postseason experience, and some of these other players who haven't played any postseason games at all, like, Kevin He, second year, no postseason games. So you'd like to have that sort of experience, even if it's a quick 4 or 5 games. You can still get a little bit of playoff experience, and then you can build upon that for next year, because next year this team is expected to be a heck of a lot more competitive with another year's growth for the 4 16-year-olds. And then, Kevin He coming back and Mike Levin with another year, and, and some of the other guys have become overagers. Gavin Bryant was outstanding on the weekend. So there's more good news than bad news for the IceDogs in terms of, their personnel and the mix of players they have.
And lastly for you, Steve, as far as we talk about Ryan Robrick and how special he's been for the IceDogs, he's already at 15 goals. He needs 6 more to tie Kevin He and Akil Thomas for that 16-year-old goal record. Would you expect in the next 25 or so games that he's able to kind of shatter that and create his own record, and maybe even be able to catch Anthony DeFruscia for goals for rookie goals as a 17-year-old?
Yeah, I mean, the Akil Thomas and Kevin He records are going to be gone. I mean, unless he gets injured, he's going to get more than 6 goals the rest of the year and end up with 21 plus. And I was saying the other night on the air, I mean, this is sometimes when scouts kind of overthink and basically fool themselves, is that there was whispers at the OHL Cup that maybe Ryan Robrick wasn't quite the dynamic player and not the consensus and automatic number 1 player that was going to be available, because he was a little bit subpar in the OHL Cup, forgetting about the 50-plus goals he scored as a AAA U16 player in London last year. And, that obviously scared Erie off enough that they picked up Matthew Schaefer as the first pick, and Ryan Robrick fell to the IceDogs, and he's delivered everything that you could expect from a first-round pick, a 16-year-old player, and then some. What a special player he's going to be, and he will, in all likelihood, become the next IceDog first-round pick in the NHL when he is eligible for the draft.
And Steve, as we wrap up here, the IceDogs sit 7 points out of Peterborough and Barrie for that final playoff spot. It's going to be a tough uphill climb for them with the hole that they've kind of dug themselves this last week, but they do play those two teams a pair of times each. So if the IceDogs were to able to get back into this, that last ranked power play sitting at 10.5%, would you think that that's, basically the key and getting a healthy lineup that is able to dress 12 forwards and 6D on a consistent basis to give them a chance here down the stretch?
Yeah, special teams are such a difference maker, and the IceDogs power play has been a source of concern all season long. And Ben Boudreau has tried a mix of, the traditional 3 forwards and 2 defense, 4 forwards and 1 defense. He's rolled 5 forwards, and nothing has really worked. So, you just got to mix and match and hope to find a combination, because you do have players who can shoot the puck, and you do have defensemen like Andrew Wysick when he's healthy, and Urban Podrakar and Callum Chanowski who can run a power play. But it's been such a source of concern all season long. The penalty kill has been below average. All the shorthanded goals they scored earlier in the season have dried up a little bit. So an improved special teams play will help, because, let's face it, Peterborough and Barrie aren't exactly rampaging over opponents in the league. They sold off a ton of assets. So IceDogs need to take care of business in their head-to-head games, and then they need a couple more breaks if they hope to get to the playoffs. They just can't have weekends that they had this weekend. They can't come out and deliver a terrible performance in the compete like they did in the game against Kingston and last weekend in the game against Barrie, and then hope to salvage something the next game. We just can't have that happen.
Well, Steve Clark, the play-by-play voice of the Niagara IceDogs and YourTV Niagara. Steve, thanks so much for taking the time and giving the great in-depth analysis there. We look forward to, obviously, seeing where the Niagara IceDogs can go the rest of the year, hopeful that they can kind of sneak into that playoff spot, and obviously look forward to seeing you at the rink as we move forward.
All right, looking forward to it as well. Thanks, Brandon.
Thanks to Steve Clark, as always, for a chat that we finally got to put here in audio. We usually talk every pregame there with the Niagara IceDogs at the Meridian Center, and we also do a little pregame video as well, Dog Pound podcast as well. So thank you to Steve for taking the time to do that this morning, and we look forward to seeing if the Niagara IceDogs are able to climb back into that playoff race there in that spot. 7 points back of the Peterborough Petes and the Barrie Colts at the time of recording this episode. So a tough hill, but it's definitely possible playing both those teams 2 more times before the end of the season. So with that, that's going to wrap up today's OHL Overtime episode and our Voices Around the OHL post-trade deadline edition. Thank you once again to Reed Duthie from the Brantford Bulldogs, Ranjan Rupal from the North Bay Battalion, and Steve Clark from the Niagara IceDogs for the 3 gentlemen that I was able to speak to today, and hopefully you listeners out there got some good insight on what to expect from those teams moving forward for the rest of the season. So that's going to wrap up another edition of OHL Overtime right here on the Armchair GM Sports Network. Proudly brought to you by Wild Bill's Auto Repair, helping customers stay safe and confident on the road in Niagara since 2012 in honor of William Robert Hunter. Until next time, I'm your host, Brandon Caputo, and we'll talk again very soon. You're listening to the Armchair GM Sports Network.